Hi guys, the Kennedy Papers, the first 1,800 pages have been released, and as promised, I am back as from earlier on in the day. I'm going to give people a little time to get back on here. If you want to follow along with me, I've put the link down below for you to follow through. It's just the archives.gov site, and I'm going to go through this one article at a time. There's a lot of interesting things that I've already seen a few little clips of the media. I try not to look at much, but I open the phone. They're basically insinuating that Lee Harvey Oswald was possibly a KGB agent. I don't know if that's true or false. I'm going to tell you what I found from the few minutes I've been able to study this since it came out. So let's start on this. Let's go to the article. Let's go to this page. Scroll down to the article. You go on the first page that is marked 9/14/62. Let's go ahead and click on that. And it's funny how a lot of times things come out in these articles that don't necessarily pertain to what we're talking about, but just kind of expose some things that are going on that maybe everyone didn't know about. A lot of things were exposed in the Northwoods Project. If you have a chance to look at that was unclassified, that's one. That is some amazing documents, some of the things that we plan to do to the Cuban government. But I don't look like there's anybody on yet. At least it doesn't show on my side. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on my mic because I forgot. Get on and comment and troll me, David. No. You should get an alert that I'm live, David. It's my son. Let's get you guys' reactions to what you've seen. But like I said, first of all, I'm going to go through. First thing I'm going to go through, if you want to click on the link that I've left below for you to follow on date 9/14/62. I'm going to scroll down to page 2. Actually, I'm going to look at the subjects first. This is Anti-Castro Activities, Operation Mongoose. Robert F. Kennedy, Cuban exile, CIA. These are the subjects. So I'm going to go down. Like I said, sometimes there's some unintended consequences in some of these leaks. But I'm going to go down here. It says, CIA will attempt to develop hard intelligence on the reported funding of subversive elements in Ecuador and perhaps elsewhere from Canada. Mr. Johnson emphasized that any evidence which could be adduced before the OS Foreign Ministry's meeting would be highly valuable. Basically, they're talking about spying on other governments and how we should go about that. If you go up to number 1 here, though, it says the group approved in the principal general letters of paper with the amendments that have been agreed upon at last week's meeting and were attached to George Lauderdale's. However, Mr. Bundy made it clear that this did not constitute blanket approval of every item in the paper and that sensitive ones, such as sabotage, for example, will have to be presented in more detail on a case-by-case basis. General Carter here said the CIA would examine the possibilities of sabotaging airplane parts which are scheduled to be shipped from Canada to Cuba. So basically what we're doing right there, we were doing a lot of stuff with Cuba back then with the Bay of Pigs and I said the Northwood Project, different things. All that is this was a plot that we had to sabotage parts that basically collude with Canada to send parts to Cuba. to crash their planes. And that came out in these papers, and that was an unintended consequence of these papers. But get off there, cat. Get down. Dumb cat jumping on the keyboard. So you can follow around with me. That's not real surprising for me since I've read the Northwood Projects. You should definitely read the Northwood Projects. It's one of the most amazing, I don't know what you call horrendous, but one of the most incredible archives you can find online by far. Just look up Northwood Projects PDF. It's all unclassified now. Government planned on blowing up our own submarines, own planes, blaming it on the Cubans, different things. So I don't know how much I believe of the newspapers coming out right now saying that Lee Harvey Oswald was a KGB agent. I want you guys to look at a specific document, though, if you're following along with me. Article 6, dated 11/24/63 to the head of the FBI. And it's 11/24/63. I'm going to open this up very quickly here. And basically what it says is 11/24/63. Where is it? Here we go, 11/23/63. You're going to find an article with a lot of redacted, but it's to the FBI director from SACNK, originator from the FBI, so somewhere within the FBI, paper textual document, and it is going to say pamphlets and publications, assassination of President John F. Kennedy. So this is the day after his assassination. Closed here within from the Bureau is the original and 8 copies of a letterhead memorandum dated and captioned as above. 2 copies are being furnished New York for information. The source mentioned is NK 1872S, who furnished the information to S.A. Russell N. Horner, which, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you've probably heard that name on 11/23/63. A lot of this has been redacted. This is the day after. I'm following 11/23/63, the day after the assassination. I'm going to go to 11/24. Please stick with me for a minute. This is going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot more interesting article here. 11/24/63. What they're saying here is basically we're not going to protect Lee Harvey Oswald. I don't know if he was KGB or not, but they come straight out and say, we have all agreed, do not protect Lee Harvey Oswald. (11/25/63). Subject John Kennedy, Fruit of Islam, Nation of Islam. Very interesting. Right here, enclosed to the Bureau are 9 copies of a letterhead memorandum in captioned manner. Letterhead memorandum enclosures to other offices are as follows: 2 to Chicago, 1 to New York, and 1 to Phoenix. The enclosed letterhead memorandum is classified confidential because data reported from both sources utilized could reasonably result in identification of confidential informants of continuing value and compromised failure. But basically what's what the big thing is right here is that they said we are not going to protect Lee Harvey Oswald. He's just came back from Russia. He spent 3 weeks in Mexico. The embassy, the head of the embassy of Mexico, if you watch my video from earlier, said 3 weeks before John F. Kennedy was shot, I know 100% that Lee Harvey Oswald is going to assassinate the president. And another member of the U.S. Embassy, he also signified that. He verified that was said. Memo from 60175. If you want to follow along with me on this page, I'm going to go along to, it says 60175, but that's not actually, it's a later edited date, but it's still got some information on here that's very sensitive. Page 4, I'm going to go to page 4, section 4, if you're following along here. It says, on June 13th, 1961, General Taylor's group reported to the president. So this is before Kennedy was assassinated, but this is something that came up that was an unintended consequence, maybe. General Taylor's group reported to the president. The report included no mention of the prior CIA activities with respect to assassinating Castro. The group's recommendation included, in the course of its work, this group has been exposed to the views on Cuba of many U.S. officials and individuals, Cuban and U.S., who have been close to the Cuban problem. We have been struck with the general feeling that there can be no long-term living with Castro as a neighbor. His continued presence within the hemispheric community as dangerously effective exponent of communism and anti-Americanism constitutes a real menace capable of eventually overthrowing the elected governments in any one or more weak Latin American republics. So they were going to assassinate Castro here, and that probably doesn't surprise a lot of people. If you're just tuning in here, this is on page 4 of section 4. I'm going to go through a few of more of these things. If you're following this link, you go through to the article March 9, 1462. This is before Kennedy was assassinated, but you're going to look on there. One of the unintended consequences of this article is that the American government admitted to a plot to sabotage plane parts that were being sent through Canada to Cuba. We were doing a lot of different things right there. If you ever read the Northwood Projects, that thing will blow your mind. There's so many things that are unclassified there right now. Like I said, 60175, if you want to go on there, the article's actually from 1961. They talk about assassinating Castro. Several of these talk about assassinating Castro. 3/5/1975. If you want to go through that article, you're going to talk about Henry Kissinger, basically looking to overthrow the country of Chile, someone getting killed. 11/23/63, the day after Kennedy's death. There's a really interesting memorandum, and of course, it's redacted. You guys want to go to 11/23/63 that day, and let me know what you think about this. There doesn't seem to be a lot left of this article. They left it in here, but it's obviously missing the guts. And this is from the FBI director to the FBI the day after Kennedy was shot. Let me scroll down to it. Give me just a second, sorry. Give you guys a second to find this. I hope you're following along with me here. See, it's just like Bible class. We don't start reading until everybody gets to the page, so we know I'm not making up the words. There it is, 11/23/63. Yes, see, it exists. FBI director. Says subject John Kennedy, Communist Party, Birch Heights, administrative. So there's a lot of talk out there right now that Lee Harvey Oswald was in the KGB, and on this cryptic document that has items redacted from it, to the head of the FBI, the subject says John Kennedy, Communist Party, Birch Heights, administrative. It's very interesting. It says it's pamphlets and publications. Very interesting. I find that it says Communist Party in the top of it. There's obviously some things that are missing here. A lot of cryptic writings along the sides. It's assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Enclosed here with for the Bureau as original and 8 copies of a letterhead memorandum dated and captioned as above. 2 copies are being furnished New York for information. The source section is NK 1872S, who furnished the information to S.A. Russell Horner, which a lot of people have heard on 11/23/63. Jump ahead to the next day of 11/24/63. I'm going to give you a second. This is a better, we're going to get a better look at what I'm talking about. If you look at 11/24/63, so go to that memorandum, 11/24/63, and you're going to look at it. It originates from the FBI. It's to the FBI director. So decoded copy. Orally advised at District Board held emergency meeting afternoon on November 23rd. Instant to assess implications of assassination and establish temporary party line for members of SCDP, which would be expected after the president was assassinated. Here's what I found very interesting in it. Entire district board agreed that no effort at this time would be made to defend alleged assassin Lee Harvey Oswald or scream frame up. District board also concluded that CPs should expect increased MC Koran Act and ultra-right activities, but that no immediate danger existed for pickup by federal authorities of CP members. Received 4:17 a.m. They sent this very early in the morning. For those of you who know, 2 days after Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested, when he was being transported, he was killed by Jack Ruby pretty early in the morning, I believe. And this paper went out, this classified paper went out, and they said everyone agreed, basically everyone in the FBI agreed, do not protect this guy. And, the media's, I'm seeing a whole lot of things out right now that Lee Harvey Oswald was possible KGB, different things. I didn't know what to think of that. I am seeing at the top of some of these lines words like communist or Russia, though, with nothing really around them to support that. So I'm not sure if they're trying to lead us in another direction. What do you guys think? Do you guys find anything that's valuable out of this so far? Anybody out there have any comments of is most of the guts going to be in those last 300 pages? I spent maybe a couple hours today going through the first page of documents, and the first page on the archives, and each PDF has several pages of documents, and the things that I've been able to find, like I'd said before, some of them were unintended consequences maybe, but the whole we're making, not surprising to me at all, we were colluding, had a plan to collude with Canada to make plane parts to send to Cuba that were sabotaged, and that's the word they used, sabotaged, on September 14th of 62 to make their planes crash. That would be of no surprise to anyone that's ever read the Northwood Projects, because the Northwood Projects, which Kennedy would have went through if Kennedy hadn't vetoed it, by the way, was to blow up planes full of our college students and blame it on the Cubans, blow up our own submarine and blame it on the Cubans. Cubans were a bigger part of the Cold War than Russia was. And like I said, in these papers, if you look on there, I'm going through this again on the 60175. It's marked on here 60175, but it's actually a memo that was originally written on 1961. It's on Castro's assassination, and I am actually going to go to that really quick because I really like this quote from Kennedy. And hang on with me for a minute. If you want to follow me, go to 60175, originally from 1961 on here. But I really like this Kennedy quote, and I think it's worth hanging on for a minute. So be patient with me. It's actually, it says 60075 from 1961. Title: Castro. Originator to the White House. 37 pages. We're going to go down to page 4 of section 4. If you can't scroll down fast enough, that's quick. All right, go ahead and take notes. But says section 4 says, on June 13th, 1961, General Taylor's group reported to the president. The report included no mention of the prior CIA activities with respect to assassinating Castro. The group's recommendations included, in the course of its work, the group has been exposed to the views on Cuba as many U.S. officials and individuals, Cuban and U.S., have been close to the Cuban problem. We have been struck with the general feelings that there can be no long-term living with Castro as a neighbor. His continued presence within the hemispheric community as a dangerously effective exponent of communism and anti-Americanism constitutes a real menace capable of eventually overthrowing the elected governments in any one or more of weak Latin American republics. So we were talking about overthrowing a lot of governments at that time, actually. There are only two ways to view this threat, either to hope that time and internal discontent will eventually end it, or to take active measures to force its removal. Unless by time we are thinking in terms of years, there is little reason to place reliance on the first course of action as being effective in Castro's police state. We're talking about the assassination of Castro here. We'll go down a little further. While inclining personally to a positive course of action against Castro without delay, we recognize the danger of dealing with the Cuban problem outside the context of the world Cold War situation. Action against Castro must be related to the probable course of events in such other places as Southeast Asia and Berlin, which may put simultaneous claims on our resources. It is recommended that the Cuban situation be reappraised in the light of all presently known factors and new guidance be provided for political, military, economic, and propaganda action against Castro. We were out to get Castro. There was a lot more to this than the Cuban Missile Crisis. And people that don't know, the Cuban Missile Crisis was John F. Kennedy saying, to Castro, or saying to the Russians, get these missiles out of Cuba or we're going to blow Cuba off the face of the planet. But those that are tuning in late, what I've found from the Kennedy papers so far, we sabotaged some plane parts that we were sending from Canada over to Cuba, a Castro assassination. Henry Kissinger talks about overthrowing the country of Chile. Gail Aller, I don't know about that, but okay, So what do you guys think? Do you guys believe that Lee Harvey Oswald was a KGB agent, though? Is there any real proof of that? If anybody doesn't know where the origin of that probably comes from, Lee Harvey Oswald was honorably discharged from the Marines. Hell no, I agree with you on that. But he was honorably discharged from the Marines, and then he spent 4 years in Russia. Within being back in the United States for less than a year, he went down to Mexico for about 3 weeks. Oswald was just some sad clan who was given the guilt. Quite possibly all are. But he went down to Mexico for about 3 weeks, and the head of the Embassy of Mexico, you can look this up, actually said 3 weeks before, said Lee Harvey Oswald, I 100% will tell you, Lee Harvey Oswald will assassinate the President of the United States. And there was another member of the embassy that was there with him that was able to corroborate his story. So, and then 2 days after, of course, 11/24/63, there's the memo that comes out that says, "Do not protect Lee Harvey Oswald." 11/24/63. It came at just after 4 o'clock in the morning. It said, "Do not protect Lee Harvey Oswald. All parties of the FBI are in agreement." That morning, of course, Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald, and really. So if he was a KGB agent, I'm not sure why that they wanted to kill him before they could make him talk. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But whatever, whatever. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about Lee Harvey Oswald? I mean, there's the whole magic bullet thing. I don't know if you guys know about, and they talk about the magic bullet thing in here some. I seen that who was that? I haven't heard of Dr. Mary's Monkey, but thanks. I will definitely look that up. I can't remember who it was today, but somebody's blasting on Twitter that Ted Cruz's dad was heavily involved in the thing. I have no idea of anything about that. But magic bullet, wow, that just defies the laws of physics. Rafael Cruz, yeah, Rafael Cruz, the dad of Ted Cruz. File said Miguel Cruz, better watch Ed Haslin's 2015 speech. Ed Haslin's, sorry. I'm not a big fan of Ed Haslin, but Ted Cruz isn't Miguel, though. Yeah, no, Ted Cruz wasn't Miguel, and he kind of went down for his father. That was interesting, but anybody who's not familiar with the magic bullet theory, so here's what it is. So it's very graphic to watch the actual shot of John F. Kennedy. I've watched it many times in slow motion. So what they're saying, the bullet went through his back and through the neck, and you have a senator that's in front to the left, and that this bullet went, I was reading this earlier today, do you remember this? The bullet went through his back, through his back, then through his left hand and into his thigh. So this is one magic bouncing bullet. I'm not quite sure how that could have happened, but everybody in the case, one that was investigating this, was not in agreement. Yeah. But everyone that was investigating this was not in agreement that it was one. I'm just going to pull the mic out. Is that better? Might have had an issue with my mic there. Is that better? Thank you. Yeah, I had a lavalier mic on. I'm not sure. It must have been loose connection. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Boze. So now I'm just using the iPhone mic, but got off track a little bit there, though. What have we learned, though? Lee Harvey, they're going to try to blame this again on the Russians. This is really interesting, what was going on there, and a lot of things that came out in these papers that, were inconsequential to the assassination. But if you look again at that wire from 11/23/63 that's redacted, it looks very cryptic. There's a lot of weird writings and stuff on it, but it says assassination of Kennedy, and this is really strange. And it's just a few hours after that you get that wire, 11/24/63 at 4 a.m. that everyone in the FBI said an agreement in this wire: do not protect Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald is not to be protected. Basically, the FBI practically admitted to putting the hit out on Lee Harvey Oswald. They didn't say, we know the guy that's going to do it. They said, we're not going to stop it. So I'm sure they had, an idea of what was going on there. Come on, guys. Do we really trust our government? I don't know. What's in the other 300 pages? I want to know what's in the other 300 pages. A lot of things that are insinuated into in a lot of these pages that are probably gonna, come up later. And sorry, a lot of things that are gonna come up later and explain some of these gaps. They're probably waiting for a few of these people to die. One of them possibly George H.W. Bush. Anybody know about the connection between George H.W. Bush and the head of the FBI at the time, Edgar Hoover? Edgar J. Hoover and George H.W. Bush. Edgar J. Hoover wanted to talk to George H.W. immediately. Why? No one really knows why. There's been mumblings out there for years that the Bushes were promised a presidency. If they kept their mouth shut, or if they did certain things. Some people have insinuated possibly that they had something to do with the assassination itself. That I don't know. I'm not making accusations against the Bushes. I'm, saying what's been said in circles. But it definitely is a fact that J. Edgar Hoover immediately contacted George H.W. Bush. That is a fact. It is a fact in these papers that we told Canada to sabotage plane parts as part of these cables that came out to crash Cuban planes. It is a fact that in 1961 we put forth a plan to assassinate Fidel Castro. It is a fact that our president talked with Henry Kissinger about overthrowing the country of Chile. It is a fact that on 2 days after the assassination, the FBI all got together. Bose, have you read Northwoods, Bose? It runs into Northwoods. Some of these papers come in from Northwoods. If you guys haven't read Northwoods, I did do a whole special on this with two other guys that are on my show. Northwoods is the ballistic missile of all ballistic missiles, and I can't believe the media doesn't talk about it more. I'm glad you brought that up. Northwoods is the epitome of showing what our government is capable of doing. They had planned on blowing up our own planes full of college students, blowing up our own submarines, hiring Cuban operatives, turning them to come across the border to kill American citizens, all kinds of crazy things like that. We wanted to go to war with Cuba really, really bad. We were intercepting their radio signals. We were talking about paying people to go on there and spread propaganda about Castro. It was really, really bad. And Kennedy was the one who put the kibosh on a lot of these things. And that's just one of many, many moving wheels of. Yeah, that's a good point, Alder. Why didn't we kill Castro? I don't know. It's kind of like I think Kennedy put the kibosh on it. And I don't know. Some people would say that maybe that's not such a bad thing. I don't know. Cuba's not causing us a whole lot of problems right now. I'm sure. I think a lot more people are probably talking about assassinating Kim Jong-un right now over there in North Korea than they are a Castro. But it's one thing that's definitely true is neither one of them are taking good care of their people. Both of them are abusing their people. Their people are starving. It's all a mirage over there in Cuba. People are not being taken care of well at all. And everybody knows about North Korea. Those people are starving. They're working 14 hours a day. And yeah, I'm going a little off subject here, but that's a very important thing you got to think about is the United States had gotten really good at monetizing wars, and we've gotten better and better along the way. But we started a little bit in monetizing with Vietnam, But then we got really good at monetizing wars here recently with Afghanistan and Iraq. We can always come up with an excuse to go to war. You guys want to hear something crazy about monetizing war, though? No matter what side you're on of this, I agree Kim Jong-un is a crazy SOB. But what I want you guys to do is look on Business Insider and Google. Do not tune away. Yeah, we are super unpopular, and I don't know about assassinating Kim Jong Un or not. I mean, I'm not obviously one to that they care about my opinion anyways. But I'm going to tell you how the United States is really good at monetizing war and what the alternative motive is here. And the United States only cares about rich countries. How many of you know what the biggest mineral source or biggest resource is of North Korea? Anybody tell me what North Korea is sitting on? They're sitting on a huge mineral base. North Korea, because of trade embargoes and because of the lack of not having the tools, has not been able to get underneath the ground. That's part of it, natural gas and copper. It's mostly gold, silver, also, and lithium ion. They're sitting on about $6 trillion. $6 trillion of precious metals. About 95% of that, of what they have traded, of course, is went to China. And now you know why China protects North Korea and why they're such a big ally. Tell me what on earth's worth $6 trillion. I don't think there's anything you can sell for $6 trillion outside, you know, the minerals in the ground that are underneath in North Korea. Afghanistan, you know, like I said, we've gotten good at monetizing wars. We're running really low on lithium ion and some things that are used to power cell phones before all of a sudden we ended up in Afghanistan. And I'm not touting 9/11 truth or anything like that, but it was very convenient to go in there at the time that our companies went in there, billions and trillions of dollars worth of lithium ion. They were able to go in there and they were able to keep building the batteries for your iPhones and your Priuses and everything that runs on that kind of technology. And a lot of that stuff isn't here. That stuff is in a plethora of that stuff is in the old USSR, North Korea. I have an idea that possibly some in China, I'm not sure. But have you guys read over any of these papers so far? You have to go through some of this stuff with a fine-tooth comb. Some of the stuff has been redacted and some of it's not been. But you can see as an unintended consequence just what our government is capable of. For anybody just tuning in, I think the biggest thing that I took from this so far was The Wire on 11/24 that said, you know, the FBI said, do not protect Lee Harvey Oswald. They set him up to be killed right away. And, sorry, I forgot your name. I think you just mentioned it, and then I got off track, that Lee Harvey Oswald, you know, denied this. You know, he immediately denied it. So Lee Harvey Oswald, after about 45 minutes after Kennedy was shot, Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested actually for killing a police officer. And then he was later charged. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Zoltan. He said, I'm just a patsy. He was arrested on the street for killing a police officer, and then later they tried, you know, they charged him with killing John F. Kennedy, or at least arrested him under that pretense. And he said, I didn't kill anybody. I'm just a patsy. And nobody knows for sure. There's a lot of people that say, you know, of course, the magic bullet thing. I'm going to go back to the magic bullet thing a little bit. I know I talked about it maybe a little bit too much, the logistics and everything. But there's also the people on the Warren Commission.
That's very possible. That's very possible. Something, if you've ever read the Warren Commission, which I have, I was actually looking at it to, get refamiliarize myself with it today. They talked about the magic bullet, and not everyone in the Warren Commission. It was like a hung jury. Not everyone was in agreement that there was one bullet, and the consensus they all finally agreed upon to, maybe just to get out of that room, was that all the shots that were fired from the depository building. So when you go back and you look at the frame shot, they take this in slow motion of the frames of the video when Kennedy is shot, and then when the governor in front of him is shot. That kind of accuracy from there would have been very, very hard, because there would have had to have been less than 1 second in between each shot. I believe it was like between 0.2 and 0.8 seconds. And can you pull a trigger twice within 0.2, 0.8 seconds? Yes. I have not read about that, Zoltan. I'm sure I have some more homework to do, and I have a lot more pages of this stuff to go through. I wanted to get on this right away just to be able to get something out, because I promised people earlier, they were late releasing the papers, that I was going to have something tonight, and I did what I could to get out what I could. I've been following the Kennedy assassination since I don't like to consider myself a conspiracy theorist, but the first real conspiracy theory I remember hearing was back in 1991 when I was 13 years old, and I watched it. It was 91 or 92. I watched it on a VHS video, and they said, actually it was after 92, because it was after George H.W. reclassified all these materials. They said that these papers would be open in another 25 years. So I kind of always kept that date in the back of my mind. November 26, 2017, 25 years later, here we are. I never really forgot that date. But I find it really interesting, though, not only that, George H.W. is still alive. Maybe they didn't think he was going to be alive in 25 years if he had something to do with it. A lot of these things that are redacted, I think, are going to come out. Two people playing. That's good insight. That's a good possibility. But yeah, it was just that's a good analogy. It was really, really strange that the guy that J. Edgar Hoover called right after the assassination was also the guy that was the president at the time. He was just leaving his presidency at the time when the Kennedy papers could have been opened up. And George H.W. Bush vetoed it, basically, and left it 25 more years that we had to wait to find, to get these papers. And now we still don't have everything, but we have a lot. We have some stuff just from the first page that I've been able to go through. And please go to the link that I have here. Go to these papers. I mean, it's bad enough to just blindly trust our government. Don't blindly trust our media as well. Don't just go online and start reading the first thing that CNN and Huffington Post and Fox News puts as their narrative, because they're going to sway you in whatever direction they want you to think. And at the end of the day, they're businesses, and they don't care about the truth. They don't care about uncovering anything. Very few of these people actually care about reporting anything at all. And they're not allowed to report if they want to report. It's all about ratings. I'm sitting here in my living room. I'm not making a lot of money. I want to tell you the truth. I want the truth as bad as you do, and that's why I've been following this. Basically my whole, more than my whole adult life since I was 13 years old. 26 years ago, I'm 39. I've been following this, and I wanted answers. The magic bullet, always mystified me as a kid. A lot of people don't know the deal with the bankers. A lot of people talk about the bankers with Kennedy, but what was the deal with the bankers? Our money used to be backed by gold. Kennedy, all from killing him. If it was CIA or mafia conspiracy, what do you think was the motivation? Mafia motivation, there definitely was a mafia motivation, because right before that, if you remember, Kennedy had said, I'm going to put an end to the mafias. Basically, I'm going to crush the mafia. And the CIA, he'd also said some bad things about the CIA too. He was very critical of both of them. There was probably a lot of people that wanted to kill him. I think there was quite a few different people involved in this, probably the FBI and CIA together. There was a poll done recently, and when they asked Americans if they thought Lee Harvey Oswald... Thank you, Tressa. I'm glad somebody loves this show. Shout out to Tressa. You're like the only person I've ever heard that says I love this show. No, thank you very much. And now, of course, I'll lose my train of thought here. Anybody tell me what I was talking about? No. Yeah, a lot of people don't know about the Nixon-Bush connection. They were a little too close to be comfortable, and Nixon's name comes up a lot in those papers the few days after Kennedy's shot. Comes up a lot. Thank you very much, Tressa. Appreciate it. Appreciate you too, Strope, and everyone here watching. Please, if you guys could give me a like and a subscribe. I'm not really making much money off this. This is kind of a hobby, but it'd be nice, for me to get one day to where I could make a couple $100 extra a month to, help my family. I'm just family of 4, working 50 hours a week, and trying to do things like this on the side to engage with people like you. I will have to watch that. Nixon's son was on InfoWars. I know Roger Stone's been on there a lot, and that's interesting. I honestly stopped watching a lot of InfoWars and I know I might lose some viewers here. Tower Nixon. I would watch that, and I definitely don't have a problem with Alex Jones. I wish he would find his grounding again, because I think that he kind of went off the deep end and stopped checking his sources on a lot of things, and I think Alex Jones discredited himself there for a while, and he's got to work on getting some of that credibility back. He kind of started going south with said some things that were actually completely untrue, and then the whole Hillary Clinton is a what was it, a time-warping child molester or something like that. Yeah, that was, he kind of went off the deep end a little bit. If you want to see one of the funniest podcasts ever, go to the Joe Rogan Experience, episode 911, and it's Alex Jones, and Joe Rogan gets Alex Jones drunk and probably high. I don't know. He didn't mention him being high, but he was just slamming whiskey. And I want to say that the episode was like 4 hours, and it's some of the best entertainment that you will ever see. It was incredible. He did smoke on camera. I didn't watch it on camera. I listened to it on video. But thanks for that, Zoltan. Yeah. Yeah, that's not surprising at all. He was way out there in that podcast, even for Alex Jones. I mean, I may not believe everything that he says. He has exposed some real things. The guy's super entertaining. Yeah, interdimensional demons. Yeah, that might be the best podcast of all time. Definitely the most entertaining. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. That was incredible. But I think I'm gonna wrap tonight up, guys. Unless anybody else got anything else that they want to talk about tonight. Anything else you've seen in the media? Like I said, don't go out there and just read the first thing you see on CNN or Huffington Post or Fox News or some other less reputable site and start sharing it to all your friends on Facebook like an idiot. Do your own research. Look through these papers. It's bad enough how many lies our own government tells to us. Just look at the motive of the media as just the conglomerate businesses that they are. And like I said, do your own research and think for yourself. Try to find people that are honest and don't really have a lot of motive. I'm not perfect, but I try to do my research. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Please give me a like and subscribe. And I will be going through the rest of these papers the next few days, and I will definitely be back on here. Hey, thank you very much for tuning in, Zoltan. I really appreciate all your support, guys. This was a really good night. Got some good support from you guys. And keep on studying that. And be ready with questions and insight for me the next time I get on here. I'm going to try to get back on here again soon. I'm going to get to some studying. You guys have a great week. Love you guys.